By 1767, Junipero Serra was 54 years old and had been in Mexico for 18 years. He had left his home island of Majorca to bring his vision of a Christian society to the natives. But instead, he found his own government cared more about turning natives into workers than saving their souls. Even after formally converting to Christianity, the natives often carried on their own traditions beneath a Catholic facade. At one point, he abandoned missionary work among unconverted natives to join a group of mendicants traveling throughout Mexico evangelizing the population. But a sudden event gave him the opportunity he had dreamt of. Missionary work in Baja and Alta California had been the exclusive domain of the Jesuit order. In 1767, King Charles III of Spain ordered the Jesuits to leave all lands under his control. This included the 17 missions that had already been built in Baja California since 1697. Serra was chosen to lead a team of Franciscan priests to staff these, as well as building new missions in Alta California. The Spanish government also decided to exert more control over their California territory. Spain had allied with France in the 7 Years' War from 1756 to 1763, which proved a disaster. France lost its North American territory east of the Mississippi River, while Spain ceded Florida and several other ports to the British. Russian merchants were active in Alaska and along the west coast as well. But in Alta California, the Spanish had done little. 2 expeditions had sailed along the coast in 1543 and 1602, but no settlements or missions had been built. In 1768, an expedition was organized to inspect the existing missions in Baja California and establish 3 new missions. The new missions would be built in San Diego and Monterey Bay, while the 3rd mission would be built in a location to be determined. Monterey Bay had been discovered during the Vizcaíno expedition of 1602, and it was described as a large natural harbor that was perfect for settlement. In early 1769, a military expedition led by Gaspar de Portola, the newly appointed governor of Las Californias, began to travel north along Baja California. Junipero Serra, Juan Crespi, and several other priests also joined the group. Serra also brought several Indians from the existing Baja missions. These Indians worked as servants and as translators when meeting other tribes living in Baja. Portola also sent ships from La Paz with supplies to build new missions and forts to head north and rendezvous in San Diego. Serra kept his own notes during the trip, and they show an almost pathologically optimistic view of his missionary work. According to Serra, the natives he encountered were friendly and eager to learn about the Christian faith. As the expedition traveled into a region of Baja previously unknown to the Spanish, Serra was eager to meet uncontacted tribes. On May 25, 1769, the expedition was about 50 miles north of Velicata when they saw several natives in the distance. The Spaniards motioned to them to come forward, hoping to establish friendly relations. But the natives ran off, and Serra sent the Baja natives after them. According to Serra, they caught one of the natives and bound him with rope. They dragged him back to the expedition, causing several injuries as he scraped along the ground. They offered him food and tried to communicate. However, none of the Indians on the expedition spoke the man's language. Eventually, the man was allowed to leave, and Serra writes that the man left understanding the Spanish were friendly. If the viewer is dumbstruck by Serra's belief they had initiated a friendly contact, it is shared by the present author. Finally, the expedition reached San Diego on July 1st, 1769, exhausted and low on supplies. The ships that had been sent ahead had arrived, but with an extra deadly cargo. A contagious disease, which has never been identified, had broken out in the ships during transit. The sick and dying crew landed and spread the illness among the local Kumeyaay tribe. After offloading the ships, Portola sent the ships back to Baja for repair and resupply, then instructed them to head north. The plan was for them to rendezvous with the overland party in Monterey Bay. While Portola prepared to continue his trek northward, Serra was busy. The first Franciscan mission in California, Mission San Diego de Alcala, was founded July 16, 1769. While Serra and a small group of soldiers and priests remained to organize the mission, Portola pushed on with the rest of the expedition, including Father Crespi. Since this channel is about the history of Los Angeles, we must note an important milestone. On August 2nd, the expedition reached present-day Los Angeles County. Upon discovering a new river, Crespi named it El Rio de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles de Porciúncula, or River of Our Lady, Queen of the Angels of Porciúncula. Porciúncula is a town in Italy where St. Francis, founder of the Franciscan order, lived. The expedition also experienced an earthquake, the first of many in the area noted by Europeans. We know they were new to California since they actually bothered to notice it. Throughout August of 1769, the expedition met the Tongva people, saw the La Brea tar pits, and became the first Europeans to enter the San Fernando Valley. By October, the expedition reached Monterey Bay, although they didn't know it. Portola and his men had only a rough idea where it was, and a description from 167 years previously. That expedition described it as a huge natural harbor, but Portola was so unimpressed, he assumed it must be further north. This did lead them to San Francisco Bay, which the previous parties had completely missed. Eventually, they realized their error, but they couldn't find the supply ships they expected to find. Running low on food and finding it difficult to live off the land, the expedition traveled overland all the way back to San Diego. They returned, bedraggled but alive, in January of 1770. When the supply ships were finally located, Portola returned to Monterey on May 24, 1770. This time, Serra accompanied Portola. On June 3, 1770, Mission San Carlos Borromeo de Carmelo became the second mission founded by Junipero Serra. Monterey became the administrative center for Alta California, which gave Serra access to Governor Gaspar de Portola, with whom he had a good working relationship. So good, in fact, Serra was granted a high level of autonomy to run the missions however he wished. This included choosing the priests to work in the missions. Serra often said very few people had the temperament for missionary work. Serra and his missionaries were also given the right to act as judges in cases of crimes committed by natives living at the mission. He also asked to be sent a copy of any orders sent to military commanders stationed at the various presidios, and this is one of the few requests Portola refused. This golden age of church-state relations would be very brief. In July 1770, Portola was replaced with Pedro Faes, a military officer who had been on the expedition to Monterey. Serra and Faes would find very few areas of agreement. Serra's plan was to build missions along the entire coast of California, and assumed the native tribes would be happy to live on them. Faes had a very different view. Faes was a military officer who had risen through army ranks by fighting Indians. He saw them as possible future enemies. The budget for the California missions was a fund created by the Jesuits and now administered by the Spanish government. In effect, Serra depended on Faes for money. This amount was supplemented by the crops grown at the missions themselves, a portion of which was given to the local garrisons. But to produce more food, Serra needed more missions. So, whenever Serra asked Faes for funds to build new missions, Faes usually refused them. Serra wrote directly to Faes superiors in Mexico City to complain, as well as to his own superiors at the Colegio de San Fernando. Faes was known for his harsh treatment of his own soldiers, so Serra found allies among the presidios, or fortresses, of Alta California. Despite these obstacles, Serra managed to found several more missions. Mission San Antonio de Padua was founded July 14, 1771, about 50 miles south of Monterrey. Mission San Gabriel Archangel was established September 8, 1771, in what is now the town of Rosemead, marking the first permanent Spanish building in Los Angeles County.